On CNBC and on the Walt Disney Company earnings call, CEO Bob Iger has said that they plan to divest some of their shares in sports giant ESPN. Will they partner with sports leagues directly? Will they make a deal with Amazon, who clocks in at 4 to 5 times the size of Disney? Let's talk about that on That Park Place. This is Jonas J. Campbell from That Park Place, where we cover entertainment, streaming, theme parks, and video games twice a day. Maybe hit the like button or subscribe if you're interested in that. We recorded this particular conversation before the Walt Disney Company earnings call, but thankfully they announced almost nothing of consequence during the call, so everything we said is still 100% up to date. Well, let's get into it. I am not an ESPN expert, but you know who is an expert on ESPN? My good pal, Valiant Renegade. He might be listening right now. He provided me with a great breakdown of ESPN, which I'm going to play right now for you all. You will not hear a better analysis of ESPN anywhere else on YouTube. Here, let's go.
Good morning, campers. It's your friendly neighborhood Valiant Renegade. Let's talk a little bit about some of the things that we are expecting tomorrow for the Walt Disney earnings call. Now, one of the big things, of course, is what is going to take place with ESPN, if anything. For quite some time, we've listened to the Walt Disney Company opine about declining linear revenue, as have all major broadcasters, Comcast, Warner Brothers, throw them all in the mix. They're all trying to figure out new and innovative ways to combat the secular headwinds of cord cutting, which has plagued the industry now for years. It's only getting worse. They've lost about 25 to 30 million cable subscribers in the last few years, and they're expecting another 20, going from 100 to about 50 million here in the next 5 to 7 years. So if you're Disney and you have a big asset, a big cash machine like ESPN, or what should be a big cash machine for the long term, you've got to take a few things into account. ESPN has two things working against it right now, as, again, do many other linear broadcasters. The first of which is the fact that ESPN is losing their very lucrative subscription revenue from cable service providers because of the cord cutting. And on the other side of the equation, you have the major sports leagues, and for example, the NCAA, college football, and the conferences that Disney is affiliated with, namely the Southeastern Conference or the SEC, and of course other ones like maybe the ACC and some of the other ones that they've engaged with over the years. Those contracts are getting more and more expensive each and every single year. So you've got to figure out a way to alleviate that crunch on your operating income, your revenues, and your costs. So what Disney is reportedly looking to do, which I think is probably a very good idea, is to partner up. And Disney has alluded to that partner being perhaps even somebody like a league itself, or leagues, plural. We could see partnerships with things like the NBA, the National Hockey League, and of course, the NFL. But one of the things that Bob Iger was most specific about was the fact that he was really looking for what he said was a distribution partner back in an interview he did with CNBC in July of this year. Now, a distribution partner would be somebody like Amazon, for example, who already is broadcasting Thursday night football games of the NFL on Amazon Prime. There aren't many streamers out there that really have the capacity to do large-scale live broadcasts. It's very different technologically than lumping stuff onto a server and somebody hits play on their TV and it pulls from a hard drive. Live broadcasts involve a lot more. Now, Amazon doesn't necessarily want to build all of the infrastructure itself to go out and actually film or broadcast from a stadium the live event themselves. But what's great is Disney already has all that built in. Amazon has a huge streaming service, and the most important thing is a lot of cash to back Disney up on this. And that's what Disney really needs. So right now, if you look at ESPN, 80% of it is owned by the Walt Disney Company and their stockholders. The other 20% is owned by Hearst, which is a conglomerate of a bunch of local affiliates and other TV stations around the country. It's been that case now for quite some time, really ever since Disney bought ABC, which came with ESPN a long time ago and also gave Disney Bob Iger. Now, Disney really wants to maintain controlling interest of ESPN for their shareholders. That would be roughly 51% of the stock, let's say. That means they could sell off 49% of the stock. Well, if Hearst already owns 20 of that 49% that Disney either doesn't own or will be willing to part with, that means there's another 29% they could peel out. That could go entirely to Amazon. They could send maybe 20% to Amazon, 5% to the NFL, 4% to the National Hockey League. There's a lot of things that can go in there. Now, of course, the NBA has their television broadcast contract coming up next year in 2024 for renewal. And rumor has it the NBA will be looking for somewhere around $75 billion for that multi-year contract renewal. Now, Disney and ESPN and even with Amazon probably wouldn't get the whole thing, nor should they. That would be a lot of risk. But that's why they have for years been sharing those kind of contracts, including Major League Baseball and other things with other carriers, people like Warner Brothers in this case. If you think of the NFL, you've got 16 teams in each conference. You've got 16 teams in the NFC, 16 in the AFC, total of 32 teams. They each play maybe around 17, 18 games a year. Some of them make it to the playoffs. You look at Major League Baseball, you look at the National Basketball Association, you're talking about a single team playing over 100 games a year, generally speaking. I mean, that's a lot of basketball and baseball, and it makes it obviously much more difficult for any one carrier to broadcast all of those games. And that's where the partnerships with different carriers for those types of contracts come into play. This is where Amazon really helps leverage Disney up. So keep an ear open on the earnings call tomorrow. I wouldn't at all be surprised if Bob Iger has some news for us on this front with ESPN, because if he doesn't, there's going to be an awful lot of questions following the earnings call to find out what exactly Disney is planning to do and what's already in motion.
Amazing analysis.
Brilliant as always and fascinating.
Isn't he? First of all, I want to say thank you very much to Valiant for that clip. That's a fantastic analysis. And if you guys aren't watching his live stream on Sundays, he has a great mind for this stuff, and he's breaking news there more than ESPN. And his analysis of Star Wars that I got to work with him on, bar none, just really the best Hollywood box office analysis out there.
And I am honored to say that he's invited me to be on his After the Call show tomorrow.
Awesome. Oh,
So
man, I'm
I'll
looking
be
forward to
there.
that.
Fantastic.
So,
There's a funny thing about sports economics. These contracts with these major leagues are the lifeblood of lots of these teams. When I was a younger man and I had season tickets at Dodger Stadium, Vince Scully one day, it was early in the season, it was the Padres who were nothing then, and he said, let me tell you how important this stadium, Dodger Stadium, is to all these other teams. A lot of them, they're not doing any business at home or not any at all on the road anywhere else because A, they're kind of figured to be out of the money from day one, and B, it's early and people think the games don't count, which of course is untrue. He said for the 3-day time that this is 3 of 12 games on the road that the Padres are playing, their piece of the box office at Dodger Stadium pays for the whole trip.
absolutely.
So
fantastic.
when you amortize even the weak teams across these equally shared, most of them, contracts for the league, it's huge. It's whether they live or die.
So to tie in a story to this, Amazon is in talks with Disney right now about ESPN streaming partnership. An ESPN streaming partnership. This out of Reuters, which also references the information that Amazon is in early talks with Disney about a streaming version of ESPN. This is not ESPN Plus. This is the ESPN TBD, ESPN DTC. They're considering charging between $20 and $35 a month for the new streaming service, which could make it the most expensive streaming service in the U.S. Most expensive standalone. Obviously, YouTube TV. And they're probably also not talking about Sling or Fubo or any of these cable replacement streaming services.
But that price shows you a shift, which is right now everybody with a bundle on their cable system is paying ESPN whether they watch it, want it or not.
Correct.
So if you go to the people who really do and say you don't have to do that anymore, you can just do this, you'll get plenty of people. And more importantly, you won't get the people that don't care.
And that has been the dirty secret in cable negotiations, that obviously that Charter Spectrum deal talks to, that ESPN sports subscribers have been subsidized by the people who are interested in non-sports content. So in bundling it together, they kind of get to hide those costs a little bit.
And there's one other factor. If you've got people who are strictly out there paying $20 to $35 a month, that's a much more attractive ad buy for an advertiser aiming at that demographic than just saying, well, we'll get the wad and whoever shows up and that's life.
Right. And I guarantee that thing is locked down in the same way that NFL Sunday Ticket, they're checking your location every single time you log into the app.
Sure.
That's one where if you're paying $35 a month for a streaming service, hey, maybe this guy's got some discretionary spending. Let's hit him with the yacht sales ads.
Or at least the higher end of our car line. or our tire line, or
Exactly.
our razor line, or whatever else, our beer, whatever they're selling.
This conversation was originally part of That Park Place Live, which we do every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Feel free to hit the notification bell if you want to know when we do that. Of course, like this video if you like this video. Share it out on social media if you know someone who might be interested, and we would be honored if you would subscribe to That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.